Hey everybody, welcome to the fifth episode of Jono Lived Here, the fantastic podcast where I, someone that's never lived outside of California, interviews my most traveled friend, Jonathan Chan. Jonathan, are you excited about today's show?
Bonjour, hello everybody. I am very excited. Yeah, I am. Sorry,
As
that
you can
was
tell by
pretty bad.
Jonathan's super racist accent, today we're going to be talking about France. And I think, Jonathan, you doing that at the beginning brings up a great point because today we're in, the year 2020. People are very easily offended. I'm always very careful when I talk about race and social issues. But the one thing that it's still like fair game to make fun of is French people. Do you agree with that?
I I wholeheartedly agree. And the thing is, they are probably the opposite of what you just described there because everyone's fair game over there. Racism is, I guess, part of that. If anything, they're kind of humor. Like it's quite accepted, if not normal, to make racist jokes as if everything's fair
So,
game.
so,
Everyone's fair
so
game.
how soon after you meet a French person will he just tell you a racist joke?
Oh, not right off the bat because they are still quite reserved people, right? But once you actually know them, and that takes some time for them to actually open up to you and to I think pay enough attention to the fact that you're around and to see kind of I think once they understand that you're gonna be there and they you can trust that all right with test see how open this guy is. First of all, if he actually speaks French first, if he understands us, and then therefore the humor later, then yeah, they actually will not be afraid. They won't hesitate to you know
So
tell
that's just part
tell
of the
racist
culture, like
jokes.
part of the conversation style is, and the humor is just to, do social commentary on other ethnicities. But like, is
Well,
France is just mostly French people though, right? Is there a lot of minorities there?
well, it depends on where you go, right? Of course, in the big cities, you definitely get more of them. You get a huge, African and I guess North African, like Arab, minority population. The Asian ones, I guess, the Vietnamese population is probably the most prominent one, I guess, out of the Asian
Yeah.
minority. But then again, yeah, you definitely get quite a visible, yeah, black and Arab minority. Uh, yeah,
Fun fact,
once,
my family, like when they left Vietnam,
yeah.
uh, most of them went to America, but a few of them actually went to France instead, and
Yep.
they live very successful lives in France. They one of them owns a chain of Vietnamese restaurants in Paris. So
There you go.
I don't remember the name. So sorry, Auntie Auntie
Ah,
French, but so you're not
oh
gonna get any
wow.
answers from me
And
or
I hope though. I mean, I guess great for them if they, they seem to have done well in their business. But I hope that they actually make decent, Chinese, Thai, and Japanese, whatever food, because like that's what you often see, right? They have, on the restaurants, Vietnamese food, but also Vietnamese, Chinese, Thai, everything,
yeah,
everything
they
Asian
cover
is
all
like what they
grounds
do.
because French people don't know the difference apparently.
Yeah, the problem is, when French people kind of look at Asian food, they think of, yeah, like Vietnamese spring rolls and always, and banh mi and vermicelli and stuff, and like, well, that's very Vietnamese of you, and so yeah, that's kind of the image of Asia, I guess, that they have. Uh,
It does seem
yeah,
like a lot of people like so people move to France for a better life because it is a European country, and then people from maybe like Africa or Vietnam move there. But it's not a is it a significant part of the population of immigrants, or is it just mainly in Paris or big cities?
I think more of a big city thing. Yeah. I mean, I don't have a stat right now to tell you how much of the population is made up of migrants, but I can say it's definitely. I don't think it holds a candle to like countries like the States, for example. It is. I mean, still one of the the most um, you know settled European country. Talk about all the European countries, and its whole, right? Like in the whole. So like you can talk about Germany, France being like the main destinations when people look to migrate. But in terms of like makeup, yeah, it's still quite the
It's
majority is
9%
French.
immigrants. I just looked it up, which is pretty impressive actually. That's a big chunk.
Yeah. So it's
I
quite
think the
significant, but
United
it's
States is
not
maybe
as
like
significant
20%.
as as you'd expect. But yeah, you're right. It doesn't hold a candle to like the US, for example. Um, But then again, though, that's kind of just the figure, right? The number. But if you look at the mindset and how you really have to not just speak French like they say, but be French to to really integrate and flourish. I'd say it really shows. It shows that the mentality is it's not one of the country that accepts migrants and then you know tries to accommodate as much, if I can say that.
So unlike so in the United States, like you can be an immigrant, and some immigrants can just there's whole Chinatowns, there's whole like Indian neighborhoods, and it's very culturally comfortable. Like you can move to the United States, but you can stay with people with your culture. You just live in a certain part of the city or part of the state. But you're saying in France, when you immigrate there, they expect you to assimilate right away.
There's probably a lot. Yeah, there's definitely a lot more pressure, for you to do that. I mean, you can again maybe I guess in big cities like Paris, yes, you can still find those pockets, and I'm sure there's a larger support system there. But in its whole, though, yeah, there's a lot more of this, assimilation or pressure. There's this need to learn the language and to do, I guess as the Romans do, but in this case as the French do. And there's the larger, I guess, kind of expectation for you to I guess, pull your
Be
weight.
French,
Yeah.
So your story with French culture is really fascinating because I remember in college, you never spoke French before going to UCSD, but you took an intro to French class,
Yeah,
and
man.
then somehow that escalated to you living in France. So can you explain that journey from like never really even knowing much about French except maybe eating some steak frit sometime, or I don't know. That's the first French food that came up, baguettes, and then to you actually committing to live
croissants, bro. I mean, we used to call them croissants. We didn't know how
croissant.
just properly, yeah. And no, but so yeah, I mean, you're right. Like before that, my language had always been Spanish, and it still is, through football and all that, and through that interest, in Real Madrid, and beyond that, the language and the culture and all that history. But then once I discovered French, though, I'm like, okay, this could be interesting. It sounds really sexy to start, right? I mean, that accent is, exceptionally.
Yeah. So you went to UCSD, and then you saw that they offered intro to French class, and then you're like, oh, why not? I should take it. Is that how it started?
So that curiosity, just before I left, I tried to dabble myself already, but then yeah, I formally started learning it in UCSD, right? And then it just went from there. My curiosity kind of grew from there, and yeah, and then after that year, I think I went back to New Zealand to finish my undergrad and also did my honors in psychology. But I always known that that my journey with French wasn't over yet. It was gonna resume and go further someday. So once I finished uni, for real, at that point I then sort of went to Europe for the first time, and my first time actually in Europe was France, yeah. And at the time, with my ex at the time, she had an internship also lined up, and she was my classmate. That's how we met, and she also had that goal, I guess, to go and stay in France, and get some experience and also improve her French, and that kind of was my goal from the start anyway. So then when I went there, it was to study first. So I went there for 3 months, Paris, right? Had to be. And then I went to this French language school for foreigners every day, and that's where I kind of got to a decent enough level. But then that again was kind of just another step, along the way that had me want to come back. And so when I came back eventually and actually moved there, it was a total of almost about 2 years, right, where I taught English, in the south of France, in some town that I was, dropped in, or assigned to. And that was, I guess, a real education, because then, beyond the language, you actually live the life there, and you go through the administration, you meet all the hurdles, and you get all the kinds of racist jokes for being the only Asian
Chinese guy. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the only ones, but no, at the same time though, you get to really, I guess, get a deep appreciation for the contradictions, which is what really drew me back every time. Love it or hate it, for me anyways, it was just that really pulled me, because just for example, I always say to everyone, French people, they complain all the time. That's like their national sport, complaining, bitching about life, about everything, criticizing everything, but at the same time, they enjoy life. in a way that just I think is unrivaled to me. That they have a word for that even, you know, profit to profit to take advantage to really enjoy, and they use that like pretty really anywhere, and so they have a way of really knowing how to enjoy life, food for example, with the gastronomy, taking the time to eat. They probably spend more time at the table compared to any other culture, and then the
So
holidays
how long is
is
a French dinner? Like what do you mean? Like how long would it take?
so of course now we all know that the multiple courses, right? But I mean the typical family has at least two, like the main and dessert. But you can always have your entree, your main, cheese, dessert, coffee afterwards, and But I think on average I saw that out of all the meals combined, every day they spend about let's say close to 2 hours, I think, at a table. Or,
2 hours. Like are they spending it with their family the whole time?
I mean if you, yeah, I mean basically if you eat with your family, that's the case. And of course for like the traditional thing
I
on
think I would
Sunday.
run out of things to talk about if I had to spend 3 hours with my family every day, talking, eating,
That's the thing. Like
eating
I can remember,
croissants.
like how you have like this culture of eating on the go, right? Just getting something to go, eating a drink on the go. I did that. Oh, sure, I got a croissant, right? I ate and I got all kinds of stares though, because that's obviously not what you do. Your parents supposed to take your time and actually sit down, and enjoy your meal. And just fun fact, like lunch times over there, at work, for example, it goes at school even. It goes till about an hour and a half or an hour 45 even. Take that.
Wow,
That's your
that's
lunch break.
really they're very leisurely over there. An hour and a half for lunch. I ate my lunch
Yeah,
in 15 minutes before this call.
right. Right, and I think they still have the law of 35-hour work week for the public sector and all that. So I mean, they get that kind of reputation from that. But at the same time, I do get to appreciate though really just taking the time over there, because they do. Although they do then of course complain and debate, and that's also another side of that culture that I kind of love. Actually, they debate a lot.
So a typical French dinner would be 2 or 3 hours of debating or complaining about. What are they complaining about?
Essentially, oh,
I'm
everything.
assuming Americans because I'm very self-centered and they probably talk about us, right?
They think they could, but I mean, it couldn't just be about really anything. It could be about the weather, it could be about the food, about work, about life in general.
I don't think I'd
And
be complaining if I had a 35-hour a week work schedule. That sounds pretty great.
but then again, but of course, I'm not talking about the private sector, but at the same time as well, like yeah, it's just I guess the different model of society and life in general. Um, but yeah, but then again, it's the pros and cons of every I guess place that you live in. But that's what always kind of got me though, the contradictions that culture had, and being sort of conservative, I guess, for the most part, and closed-minded compared to, let's say, I don't know, the States, for example, and in the general sense, right? But at the
Well,
same
you're
time,
saying the
also
French are more
curious.
conservative than the States?
Yeah,
That's like the
I mean,
opposite of what I would
I'm not
imagine.
comparing the most conservative pockets of the States, but generally speaking, like, yeah, the French are still quite
Like they're
conservative, quite.
religious.
You get pockets of them, but it's just generally speaking, not being as I guess liberal in the sense of um,
Like there's
in
gay
terms of
marriage there.
sexual orientation, I guess. I mean, it's definitely changing. I'm not gonna say that it's still like that, but for the most part, though, um, in race, for example, they're still, uh,
They're
I'm
less
not gonna say,
PC over there. I can tell, right?
oh, definitely this. No, yeah, they go direct. They don't really, filter anything at all. They just go, and it's still a bit, like, ignorant, I guess, in the sense of not being too aware of, you know, the outside world as much, from my perspective, anyways. Because I'd go explain a lot of simple things I thought was common knowledge, but
So
not
you
really.
think it like if comparing talking in a conversation with an American family versus a French family, you'll say the French family is more likely to say something controversial than
Oh,
the
yeah,
American.
yeah, they don't really mince their words, nah. But at the same time, it's also, on the other hand, kind of like a lot more liberating to know that that's what they say what they think, right? And what they're looking for is actually not so much a, I don't know, combat, but more of a debate. And you can also find that in French conversations, it somehow has more of an intellectual sort of feel to it, where they're really looking to argue and to debate, and to talk about philosophy a lot more, I feel, than typical American circles.
Yeah, the Americans just want to. I don't know. I think a lot of Americans are just want to be content and make everybody happy. but the French are more I don't know the right word, aggressive, or they
It's
they
funny.
get they get thrills from these kind of conversations.
You actually hit on a really important point, yeah, because I did read an article actually comparing. I think this guy was Canadian, I believe, but he compared North American culture to the French culture, right? And you're right. What North American people, I guess, even English-speaking cultures like us, like ours, right, tend to go for is to kind of get agreement, to kind of like get along. That's more important for us. That's how we kind of take care of what we say more. But then apparently to the French, right, it's more important for them to actually, look and sound intelligent, learn it, culture it, It's again in general terms, bro. But that seemed to kind of ring true to me in my experience, anyways. Yeah. So,
Is it more important to sound intelligent or be intelligent?
well, hopefully B, because yeah, sounding that you can say, yeah, everyone's
Because you don't learn
essentially.
anything like in some I don't want to stereotype, but like some conversations in the United States, it's like, oh, the weather's really weird today or something, and that can go on for 10 minutes or something like that, and you don't really learn anything from that. So I guess like if it's the right conversation and like let's say a French family, you can actually learn about a different perspective, which
Definitely,
is
yeah.
beneficial.
One thing
But
that
if they're
one
arguing
thing
for the
that
sake of arguing, that's where I might have a problem. If they
no,
just
yeah,
want to be controversial. But you don't think it's like that though, right?
no. No, it's definitely. I feel like it's more thought out, more profound to me in the general sense, and I think it also goes down to just not just culture, but the way they're educated as well. Because in school they actually have philosophy as a subject. I don't know if that's the case in the States or even
Oh, that's definitely not in the
yeah.
state. The
So
first
it's
time I
kind of
had to
interesting.
take philosophy was in college, and I'm like, wow, this is a weird class because it's
Really.
unlike anything you ever had to do in your normal education.
I applaud you for taking that class because I had never taken philosophy classes in my life. You see, I had to go and look at them online myself to learn about these different thinkers. Uh,
Yeah, it was like, is it okay to explode a car if the car is going to hit a train and kill everybody in the train? I still can't answer that question because I guess I didn't do very well in that philosophy class because I don't know the answer to it.
oh, but then
You could
yeah.
probably explode the car. I think that's probably fine. But yeah, sorry for who's driving in the car. So you okay? So like just to go back, so you studied French for a year in San Diego, and then
Yeah.
with that confidence, you took 1 year of French knowledge, a very basic. I took French for 3 years in high school. I probably would say it's probably worse than the college education, but I think we would probably be at pretty equal levels if you took 1 year of college and I took 3 years of French. I would not feel comfortable living in France knowing like how to conjugate a couple of verbs and knowing what a pomme de terre and and a
I mean,
pamplemousse is or whatever. So you so you went to
that's enough, man.
France after college and you spent uh so
Three
you
months
joined
there.
a company that lets you tutor people in weird French villages. Like how's that work?
Oh no, so like after the time in America, like, so after that year. But again, one little disclaimer, I guess, we do kind of like quantify the time learning language. I guess it's all really subjective, because like there are people that take classes for however long, but then it still depends on I guess the work that you put into it, and then I think the work that comes
Yeah,
after
some people just
after
want to
those
pass the
classes.
class. I think you actually
Yeah,
took the
so
effort into learning the
but I
language.
mean, it was fun. It was again with everything when you really get into something, it becomes fun to you, right? You get more motivated. But yeah, so after that year of formal classes, I actually no, I went to a French language school, right? That's when I went there for the first time. I stayed 3 months. That was when I really I think probably learned, though it helped right to go to the school where you're still in that environment, I guess you're still supported in that sense.
So you're just
So I
hanging out
guess
in a French school, or did you have to pay for classes and stuff?
oh no, it's like a private language school that you get. Like for example, how people come to the States say to learn English, right? So so yeah, of course, that was an investment, on my part. And yeah, at the same time, kind of went discovering exploring the place, but that was still, I think, I kind of like I like to call it like a quasi, uh, real environment because it was still not, I guess, nothing like when I actually moved there. I think what was it 2 years from then, like 2 years later, yeah, when I actually went there. So it was a program that you have it too. It's called TAPIF, like Teaching Assistant Program in France. Is what it's called in the States. But you pretty much have teaching assistants come from really all over the world in different languages, right? So I guess for mine was English. So we went there, and then the Office of French also would send theirs over to our country and whatnot. And you get assigned. You choose the region, like your academy, meaning I guess the teach like education sort of region. I chose the South ex Marseille, and so then I got assigned to a little town an hour away from Marseille. So that was when you really get to get a glimpse into the whole system around how you get set up at a place, finding a place, for example, getting health insurance, social security, opening a bank account, blah blah blah. And that was the time I think then when I could really say that I'm actually learning because when you kind of get thrown in the midst of it, I think uh, you get put in situations where you actually have to test how you
So you're
how
saying
you use
instead
language.
of taking a
So
French class, it's more productive to throw an American in the south of France where no one speaks English?
that definitely is the best way to learn. Of course, it's the most uncomfortable. It's the scariest thing. I can say I'd say grew up properly there because it was the first time I was I think put in a situation that was the most different from what I was used to. Culturally speaking, language as well. Like you think it would be alright to have spent that much time learning language, and then you actually go there, and you're like fuck. No, I mean people just fucking look at me funny when I try to speak, and they all still kind of squint their eyes. I don't know if they were being racist or not. No, I'm kidding. They probably to an extent.
They're just squinting their eyes to make fun of you.
Yeah, or both. I'm not sure because I had this thing with it would be okay to just do that. Pull your eyelids. No, but it's baptism by fire. I think quite truly. So but you really learn the best way so you persevere and by the time I think when I got out, it definitely well worth it. So I encourage anyone, if they're interested in language, obviously go straight in, but it's obviously best to go through some sort of formal way of learning, and then later on, take the test, man. Get out there and use it and of
So
course make
so
connections, make
to go
friends.
back, like you just they assigned the city to you, and it's a small city. What's the population of the city that you went
Yeah,
to?
so you all you can choose. You have choices right first, second, third, but you choose the educational authority or region. They call it the academy, I guess. And then from there you can even get posted to the big city, like say Marseille, of 1 point I don't know 5 or how many million people. Or you get put in a little city in the bush maybe, or in the fucking countryside in the mountains. But in my case though, I got put. Luckily enough, it was a small city. The small city I've ever lived in. It was a small town of 30,000 people. An hour away from the big city, so it was still coast to the coast.
So what is a French small town like? Is it similar to the towns that you grew up in? I guess you grew up in a city in New Zealand, but do you know what American small towns are like? Like everyone kind of knows each
Yeah,
other.
uh, okay. I guess that I guess it would be that because you felt that you always saw the same people and in events, and you see your colleagues, you see your students, you bump the people that you know all the time in the supermarket. So I guess is it like that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're more likely to say hello to each other rather than living in a city because it's a
yeah,
small community.
I'd say
Uh,
so.
the the American small cities are pretty culturally boring. So I don't know what the French like. There might be like an Applebee's and a McDonald's, but there's no like real interesting restaurants there.
Oh, well, fortunately, that small town that I was at, anyways. I mean, really, in the small towns that I then went through along the blue coast is what they call it, that kind of part of the country. Even in the smallest towns, they have quite an interest and therefore I guess of an investment in culture. So they're always little events. Of course they're more in the big city, but they still will have like little shows, little performances, and I joined an improv group, so they also had
A
a lot
French
of
improv
events
group.
held against for the French was also to
What's the name of the
really
group?
make oh la kiff. It's uh literally translated, it's the crazy, crazy, crazy improvisational company or troupe, So la compagnie d'improvisateurs fou fou fou, la kiff, yeah, if
But
I
is a
can.
French humor more subtle than the American improv? Because I just think of Whose Lines It Anyway when I think of improv.
Yeah, oh, I love it. Oh, legends. Subtle. I mean, I guess I learned that there were different kinds of improv, but for that crew specifically, it was more of a comedic, humorous kind of improv type. So it's more like laugh. So but humor wise, no, like I could always remember like sometimes they'd be like how they're different sequences, right? And there's one where like the referee would just say, okay, I want you guys to do like an improv skit, in this certain accent. So like, I don't know, in a Quebecer accent, in Quebec, let's say. And the next thing you know, in yeah, in Asian, I don't know, a Chinese accent. I don't know what
Oh
you
no,
call that.
you can't do that.
Yeah, right. So I'm like, oh, that's what they think we sound like. um, and but at the same time, that's just the way they I guess see humor. So so sometimes you might kind of feel wow that's odd to actually hear that uh
I
being
mean,
thrown at
that's got to
you.
be culturally interesting to watch a French improv group in a town that's less than 30,000 people do a racist interpretation of an Asian accent. I think that's just something that stays in your memory for a lifetime.
Yeah, I
I've
wish
never experienced anything like that. I wish I could.
it's just I guess it's another thing, but then of course like when you I get to know them, you know that that's never like a bad intention joke that they kind of I guess they mean to do to make, but at the same time, I wish for them to, kind of know, I guess, the history behind, making these sorts of jokes. But, but again, in the same vein as the whole Charlie Hebdo thing back in 2015, when they had those terrorist attacks, I think the general reasoning, for as much as we disagree with it, like, is that, oh, no one's, no one's free from being made fun of. Everyone can be ridiculed. I don't know. So they already kind of see it the same. Like, doesn't matter, you know, what the joke
Were
is. It's
you
just, it's
in
not racist.
France
It's
during
everyone
that
taken with
the shooting?
race. Sorry.
Were you in France during the Charlie Hebdo shooting?
I arrived right after, um, 2-3 months after, actually, not right after, 2-3 months after, yeah. I think I arrived in April at the time. Yeah, that happened in January, right? Wasn't it? Yeah.
So
Uh,
they basically take free speech very seriously over there, right? Probably more seriously than the Americans.
um, well, that's a question. I don't know if it's, I don't know if they take more seriously than you guys or not. I don't know if that's, I don't know if I'm actually in a position to compare, because you both have it pretty on top of your priority list, being able to be free to express yourself and say whatever you want. But I know that you guys are definitely, because of your political correct sort of culture, you guys have more, I guess, more tact to it. Some might say too much, but I still more than the French. The French, I don't think they already even have that, because you know, that's just yeah, that's just the way their way of, I guess, making fun. Um, yeah, no one's safe, no one's immune from being made fun of. That's what they always say. But then, of course, I don't agree with the fact that they can then justify racism with being racist to everyone. That to me is nonsensical. But
That's true equality over there. Were the French people that you met in the small town different than the people that you would meet in a city in any way?
oh, I mean, of course, I mean, if you look at the big city, of course, depending on who you hang out with, that's probably more important. Like you probably get more of an awareness. But I mean, human-wise, they're still quite direct. They still like to snipe at you, and they of course expect you to attack back. And kind of have that banter, which is not too different, I guess, from the States. You guys do have your banter as well, huh? But then I guess they kind of hit you more, I think, in France, and expect that little play, that little tug of words there. And but at the same time, though, I mean, I can't deny that the people that I obviously got to know, they're are the warmest, the most welcoming people.
Did they invite you over for dinner and stuff like
Oh,
that?
definitely, definitely, yeah. So that's again one of the contradictions that I think I found quite uh, again mind-boggling and interesting at the same time. How they want they'd be so curious to obviously know and you know find out about your culture and all that, where you're from, but at the same time as well they have all these like preconceived notions about just the fact that I was Asian, and of course then to test it out on you, right? You don't have
They
your
would
shit
just
off
go
along with
into
that. It
that.
should,
They like tout manger and perro. I don't know how to say dog. What is it?
yeah, yeah, it's chien,
Was it?
like
Shit.
yeah, right.
I'm confessing confusing Spanish with French for a second. They would just straight up ask you that.
Oh, you might get that. Yeah, I got that. Yeah, I got all kinds of yeah. But at the same time, it's funny because it was always a struggle, kind of like giving better of a doubt. Okay, like are they trying to be funny there? Okay, it's just maybe them being humorous. Oh, okay, they're being ignorant. But at the same time,
Maybe they're
I
just
think
doing an
it's
impression of a racist person, but they're not actually racist.
yeah. So yeah, so it's one of those things, huh? But at the same time, like yeah, you hit them back, So I mean, sure that the odds are not stacked, right against them, right? They're all stacked against us. There's so many more,
No, there's a
you
whole.
know.
I looked on Wikipedia earlier. It's like a whole list of French stereotypes, and there are some
Yeah, but
not very pretty ththings there.
yeah, but at the same time, I feel like they've never really been used to denigrate as much, and to actually have real, I guess, more serious sort of consequences on them as much as on say on minorities when we talk about obviously trying to integrate into their society. So like for example, if we talk about the French, I don't know, like what never showering or something, or it's fucking being smelly, or like being all kinds of cheese. I don't know what can you say? They smoke all the time. Like what else can you talk
Is
about?
is that showering thing real? Like,
Oh,
do they shower every day?
yeah, it's just I guess it's just stereotype, but you see that doesn't
Who
really I don't know.
invented that stereotype?
I have no idea.
I think
So,
American soldiers during World War II or something. I don't know. But back then, they were conserving water. All of Europe was. So that's a different time.
yeah. But again, I think when you find, I mean, you've been there yourself, right? You can see how they definitely, of course, they know a lot more about the states, right? So they definitely have a lot more to say about the states, and they therefore, I don't know. I think have this different relationship with you guys than maybe other people, um, like me, I guess, that go there. I don't know
When
if you
I
think
went
that.
there, like none of my cousins really talked to me, which was sad. I think that's just part of their culture. It's like they're more reserved. The only person that
Yeah.
talked to me was one of my uncles married a German lady, and then she was talking to me most of the time because ironically it seemed like the Germans are friendlier. But
Well,
you also don't
maybe
notice.
I don't think it was maybe because she was able to speak English, right? Which is
Yeah, I
again
think
one
she's
of the
just
big
testing
things as
your
well.
English.
Yeah,
Maybe
the
that'd
French
be
are
good.
really, really yeah, embarrassed, I guess self-conscious about their English skills, but then because they're also equally critical and pinpoint like I guess rigid and demanding with their own language. Like the fact they even correct themselves, in French, something that also surprised me. So therefore they're so uh, demanding and yeah.
So what are they serving to you when you go to a nice French home cooked meal? Is it a nice pot roast with potatoes or something? Or like I don't even know what the typical French meal is because like you only get like the image of a very fancy meal, but
Oh,
you don't really know what a like a home style everyday kind of meal is over there.
um, I mean, of course, depending on the region that you go to, you get different specialties, which is again, of course, one of the best things about France, right? It's gastronomy, but typically though, I mean, yeah, you can get pot roast, you can get roast, uh, sorry, I roast, I don't know, chicken or beef, whatever. You can get also like casseroles, like pot casseroles, sort of, with meat and all that. I mean, you get your typical beef bourguignon, right? Like I guess beef cooked in red wine, right? Marinated for hours and then cooked like that. And you get the chicken version as well. What you can also get pasta. I mean, from where I was, because it was in the south as well. I guess you had quite a decent amount of Italian influence, so they have good amount of pasta and pizzas as well that they eat. uh, but yeah, what else? You get seafood as well. So in that region as well, their famous dish is this like this sort of fish stew, I guess. uh, Seafood and that. But generally speaking, yeah, I mean they like their meats, so that's generally what they eat. And of course, their cheese, a lot has a cheese, right?
So
Like
all
coffee
this
and
sounds
fish.
like so fancy to me. Like all these type of meals, but like, do typical families eat this? Like, can they afford to eat a beef bouillon, whatever it's called, or
Like yeah, I mean,
poisson? If
I think thinking about it, like I think the image is probably one that's just been propped up a lot. So if you really kind of have a decent, normal meal, it's okay. Like it's delicious, but at the same time, I don't think it takes, I don't know, it doesn't cost an arm and a leg to make a nice, French style meal. So
because like some Americans eat spaghetti every day because it's cheap and you can make it for a
yeah,
week. But like, are the
maybe
French
that's
people
funny.
actually
You
cooking
can eat
every
pasta
night?
too. No, I mean, so I think the most like special the occasion, you probably then make more of an effort. But if not, yeah, you could eat pasta as well. I eat plenty amount of pasta over there. um, but yeah, you know. But oh, before that though, I just want to go back to that point about how when you went to France and you know said that your cousins don't want to talk to you and all that. That's also one thing I think that people take right off the bat, and I think also misunderstand. So, sure, like I mean, every culture right gets a fair share of praises and criticism, but I think for me as well, the French are quite in large part I think misunderstood by a more sort of open, you know, I, I guess English Anglophone cultures because yeah, it's true that uh, they're quite standoffish, from the
Or
start.
they don't trust strangers. They want to get to know you before they open up,
Yeah,
especially when you don't speak their language or have
exactly.
2 years of high school French under your belt, saying merci and I, I don't even
Yeah,
remember my high school French.
no, but the fact that they can also kind of be quite fixed about it when people try to speak French, just also wide and yeah, people kind of have this tendency to not quite like them. I guess maybe when that happens,
Yeah, one of the
we make
most
an effort.
tense moments of my life was ordering a hot dog in a French bakery in Paris, and I just said un hot dog s'il vous plaît, and the guy just looked so confused at me, and I ended up just pointing at the hot dog because and that moment sticks with me still today. And I was 16 at the time, so that was like over 13 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, but the fact that you made an effort, though, you see, that's kind of one thing I think that we appreciate more when people like try to make an effort to speak English, let's say, when they come to our countries, right? But when we do that over there in France, it doesn't seem as if it's just reciprocated, I
I
just
know I
think
should
about
have
you
just
just
went
like
straight up
I
English.
just don't speak
Give me
at
a
all.
hot dog, buddy.
Yeah, but at the same time,
I
they
don't
can also
respect your culture.
say something about their English as well. They're still like behind how like everything's dubbed in French. There's even a law that actually dictates that you have to have a certain percentage of like French music and whatnot being broadcasted. So they're quite protective about their language. So that really has a toll on
Like for
how
radio stations or like
yeah
grocery stores, like radio
radio
stations.
stations yeah.
Okay,
Um,
so
and
not
so
enough Kanye is only 20% Kanye in the radio station.
probably yeah, and because like they're actually more familiar with the actors that dub let's say certain actors, let's say oh that's I don't know, let's say Brad Pitt's voice than actually Brad Pitt's voice himself because most of the movies are all dubbed in French, so that also explains why the English is not as great as you'd think. uh,
So out of all the European countries, it seems like France um, is the most resistant to please American tourists by learning English. Right? They're the ones that like you can just speak French and live because most European countries they speak English very well, at least in the big cities. Like you can go around and you can go to Berlin, you can go to like
yeah,
parts of Italy, but
yeah.
French they're very
They're
prideful
a
about their
stubborn
language.
bunch.
Is that just part of their culture? Like they're just so
Yeah.
prideful that they love their language so much that they refuse to speak English.
So again, again, the same as that definitely is changing, right? I mean, look at big cities, especially and with the younger generation, more connected. Definitely is changing. But you're right, it still sticks. That mentality of you know, keeping I don't know, a certain sense of I don't want to say purity, but like a attachment, to French language and thinking that it's actually enough. That it's fine. Like with French, I think like they can probably get by, and so it's changing, but probably not as fast as you expect for a country like France. So of course, in that we just talked about the environment, how everything's so Frenchified that it makes it hard, right, to actually get
So you
exposed to
think the
actually
younger
like
generation is more interested in West, well, not Western, but like American culture?
yeah, definitely through yeah, internet, social media, and pop culture. I think generally speaking, right, yeah, everywhere it's happening. So, but yeah, with them, what surprised me actually was that a few of my students actually like K-pop. I'm like, wow, I never would have expected you guys to like K-pop. So BTS and all that also, yeah, it's taking
This was
taking a small.
a couple of years ago when K-pop started becoming popular.
Yes, yes, yep, yep, definitely even so now. I think even more so now. But yeah, so with the younger
Did you
ones, I
try to
think
convince them that you were in a K-pop group because you're probably the only Asian person they've ever seen?
uh, I don't even try. I don't think so. I don't think I have that typical K Korean look.
Just gotta grow out your hair a bit and get eyelid surgery.
Yeah, yeah, probably not. But
But
what was
yeah,
it?
it seems like the younger generation like is more interested in American culture and are they more likely to speak English like a younger person in France?
Oh, that's like,
Well, you
I
you
would love to say
literally went
yes,
there to teach them
but
English, right?
yeah, I'd love to say yes, but at the same time, I don't think this is taken really seriously enough until maybe let's say they really kind of like learn it properly and go to uni and actually learn that, or if not, move to the big cities, like let's say Paris, and actually work in an industry where you need to have English. You're gonna get more of a chance there. But you talk about just kids like that in school. It really depends, I think. So of course, those who take let's say languages as their main like subject stream, yes, more of a chance that they'll be able to speak all right. But otherwise, for the most part, nah, because you don't really have to use it. That's the thing, right? So, um, but again, we're betting on the internet with Netflix and all that. Hopefully they get more of a chance to actually hear the
Well,
proper.
I'm assuming that there's like a quite a big entertainment industry in France too, right? Don't they have their own movies? I guess their
Yeah.
movies might not be as famous. They're more like artistic, or am I
Yeah.
just generalizing there?
No,
There's
I
no
think you're
French
right.
Transformers or anything.
No, but I mean, you talk about like French actors or directors that I think made the mainstream in Hollywood and all that. I can think of only what Taken,
Gerard
Luc
Depardieu.
Besson, right? District 9, Taken, that was directed by that French director Luc Besson, and then you know what else? John Reno and the Pink Panther.
Yeah, I don't
Who
even know what
else?
that. I know what the Pink Panther is, but I don't know who that. Mr. Bean, is he French? Or is he English?
Corona. Yeah. But yeah, it's definitely yeah, they have their own industry, but at the same time, people still watch their movies a lot, right? Get the Cannes Festival and all that, making waves every year. Uh-huh.
So would you say the best feature of France was like their their culture that is pretty solid? It's
It's
something that
definitely
they're
rich.
very prideful.
Definitely rich. Yeah. I mean, for me, I've always had this, curiosity to kind of see how people live, how they behave, how they speak, what they talk about, what their humor is like, how they laugh and all that. So that's me already was, yeah, the main goal, and then to get to the thick of it was also, yeah, I think a privilege. But you're right though, in terms of culture, yeah, there's a lot to discover there, and then of course with the history that they are so much more connected to, I think, owing to their the history that goes back a lot more than ours, than our countries. So they seem to have a lot more of an awareness and appreciation, I think, for that. I feel. So that's also what I appreciated. Yeah.
Did you go to the tourist areas too, or were you
Yeah.
staying? So you went to like the Eiffel Tower and the Louvre and all
Oh
that
yeah.
stuff.
Like a must, like a ritual to have to go through.
So what do you remember about like these are literally the most touristy places on earth, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I think Paris probably is the most visited city.
It
If it's
is.
not, it's definitely in the top five.
It's Paris. I think it was Paris, Barcelona, Rome, but yeah, it's among the top if anything. But it's been the top for yeah many years. Yeah, Paris. So yeah, people to go.
So was it fascinating to see people from all over the world go to the same spot and take selfies in front of the Eiffel Tower?
I know it was fascinating to see that, and then to see the attitudes of Persians themselves towards
Well, they got to
tourists
be
coming.
used to it if they live in the
Yeah,
most visited city in the world. I love going to Fisherman's Wharf in San Francisco because
yeah,
I like seeing people from around the world. Like
yeah.
it's fun to see German people. It's fun to see like Scandinavians, people that just come to San Francisco for this really cliche thing. But it's fun to see people do this. Like when you're living in San Francisco, you see the same kind of people every day. But you're saying the Parisians don't get used to this, even though they probably see this every day.
No, they probably are. Probably are. I mean, there are some that probably. I mean, again, I think it's just about getting used to it. I think more of them are probably getting used to the fact that here they're the most visited city on earth, right? But it's just the fact that a lot of them try to avoid these touristy areas, which is I guess understandable. They try to find their own you know uh, places to hang out and go to. Um, and yeah, but of course, I think what for me was more interesting was the I think attitude like between people from let's say the south towards Persians, and vice versa, and I guess people's kind of like, image of people from different parts of France, because even then, like they have the different stereotypes and
Are the
identities and all
Parisians like the elitists, while the southern
that.
people
Yeah,
are the farmers or something?
kind of. I mean, yeah. So yeah, it is right. They're all sort of more supposed to be more arrogant or something, and then those from the south are kind of, oh, well, especially Marseille, are supposed to be like more, I don't know, rowdy and dodgy and and even like in football there's this rivalry and but it's just interesting, yeah, to hear the different accents as well. So it's a whole lot of diversity. I mean, probably just like the States as well. You get all kinds of that as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, like
People.
the elitists live in New York, and the country folk live in like Kentucky or something like that. There's stereotypes all for every country.
Yeah,
Since Paris is the most visited city in the world, do you have any advice for people that travel to Paris that's like something that's not typical?
I mean that's not typical. I mean, I might disobey and go against what you just said there by, of course, just kind of saying, hey, maybe be careful. I don't know if that's probably typical, right? But just be careful of pickpockets.
Pickpockets?
I don't know. Just be careful of your belongings. But if I'm going to actually kind of give an advice from my own point of view, that's maybe different. I would say yes, probably one that is not said enough. Make an effort. So, like for example, if you go to the store, let's say, or if you were to ask somebody something, yeah, always start with a bonjour. Even that, I think, is probably it will probably make a difference. I think, and not just your transaction, your interaction, but maybe your impression on French people in general. Because for them, like they would take pride in that sort of etiquette where you have to start with a hello, and then with a thank you, with a goodbye. They take that, I think, a lot more seriously than, say, maybe us, where we could just go and hit somebody up and be like, yo, or like just ask a shop attendant like, oh, do you have this in this size, for example, whereas for them, if you kind of like when you say that word, you actually kind of signal that you're entering their space, and it's a matter of respect, that you say that. So yeah, you learn to say bonjour, merci, au
And
revoir.
parler
Yeah,
anglais.
yeah, exactly. Huh? Parlez-vous
Yeah,
anglais?
I would just
That's
walk into the store and say bonjour,
yeah.
parler anglais, and then
Yeah, because
if
a
they
lot of
say
people actually
no,
don't.
then I'm
They
screwed.
just go straight. They even just like, speak English or something, and then people they'll be like kind of, I don't know, a bit sort of confused. They actually would then be like, okay, bonjour. They're coming. They're kind of trying to, all right, hello, thanks for saying hi and recognizing my presence.
But
But yeah,
don't
that's
say bonjour at night, guys. You have to say bonsoir.
there you go, there you go. Yeah, it didn't go to waste, man. You have like all
See,
those
I think
years
the
of French.
typical the French thing is like like some Americans think bonjour is like the whole day. It's good to go to say it because it's the most commonly known French phrase.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, but but that's yeah, I guess a cultural tidbit. I think that's important. Apart from that, yeah,
No
no.
secret spots that you know about. You were there for
Secret
three
spot
months.
in
Secret,
Paris.
yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, secret spots though. That secret spots.
No restaurants. Just it just has butter. Like,
I mean, I had some favorites, but I don't
what's
know.
the best like ethnic cuisine there? Like, I guess there'd be a lot of African food, right?
Yes, you can find that. I mean, I'm thinking back to my most recent time in Marseille. I like the Haitian food. I quite like that. But talk about ethnic food though, like different kinds of food. Oh, tough one. I mean, get. I remember a good Lebanese place in Paris. Ethnic food. I mean, finding proper Vietnamese food was also quite cool. Oh yeah, and of course, yes. Oh man, there's this place actually. How am I supposed to like recommend this though? It's this place called literally called Banh Mi, which is your Vietnamese sandwich, right?
Yeah,
Isn't it?
banh mi,
That place I think has the best, not just quality, but also the best, you know,
bread.
person selling. Because she's this wonder, this Vietnamese Chinese, woman auntie that speaks fucking Vietnamese, French, English, Mandarin, everything, and she's really charismatic, and she gets like gifts from everyone around the world. She's got like postcards everywhere on the wall, and it's a place that's near the. Sorry, it's on the Turbigo Street, Rue Turbigo, Turbigo. Yeah, find it there. So that to me was, yeah, it's one of my best recommendations I can give.
So if
But
you're ever in Paris, anyone listening, try to find that baguette
yo,
place or banh mi place.
yo,
Or if you can figure out what my aunt's name is, go to her restaurant
true.
because I can't
I would
even
say
pronounce
yes. You
it.
guys can contest. Yeah, I mean, yeah, Yuante also made one of the best. So
She
yeah,
was definitely very successful because she put us up in a hotel in Paris. It wasn't like the nicest hotel, but she offered to buy us like the room for the night. Like, oh, that's pretty cool.
wow. Yeah, but yeah,
So, what would you say is like a problem in France that people don't really think about,
problem.
if there
Oh
if
wow.
there is any,
Yes. Oh man, of course. I think
except
one thing that probably
people
surprises
smoke
people,
too many cigarettes?
apart from the amount of dog shit that you probably find on the ground. Yeah. So actually, that's another fun tip as well. Yeah, look down, huh? Because good chances are that you find a lot of dog shit on the ground, more than usual.
So there's no pooper scooper rules over there.
uh, I don't know if people really care or follow enough. It's quite lax, and there's also kind of like part of the culture not really kind of want to pick them up. So unfortunately, but apart from that as well, like yeah, the problems I'll say people also get surprised by the homelessness, right? That you find. Um, of course, you talk about big city thing. Yes, in every big city you get plenty of that. But over there, especially because people think of, let's say, Paris as just this whole romantic, scene, right? The beautiful architecture, those French windows, that kind of open out outwards. No, I mean the beautiful buildings and all that, the cobblestone roads and all that. But you get a lot of homelessness, and that's also one of the biggest challenges, right? Um, it's really
Like they're
dangerous.
literally sleeping on the street, like in tents or
Yeah, yeah,
something, or
yep,
sleeping
yeah,
bags.
yeah. You get all that.
Are they from France or are they from all over Europe? Because Paris is such an attractive city. Like if,
Yeah,
if you were homeless, you probably want to live in Paris because it's like it's pretty and there's a lot of tourists, so maybe someone gives you money.
yeah. I guess yes and no because it gets quite saturated, right? I mean, with that and conditions, I guess also aren't sort of maybe the best. I don't know. It's I mean, I guess it's all relative, right? But I mean, over there though, you get people. You get the what would you call it? What's the word? The people who roam around that were not were
Oh,
nomadic.
gypsies.
Yes, the gypsies. Uh-huh. Then of course you get people like migrants, I guess, from Syria, let's say, and from war-torn countries and stuff like that. Um, and yeah, I mean, some have tents, some have just mattresses, and yeah, you get quite a. It was, I mean, for me, anyways, it was a lot more than I expected. So it's still not a really good sight.
Wait, so the
But
French government doesn't like shelter them? Because
there
I
are
thought they
shelters
were
around,
more
but
liberal
they're
kind
not
of.
there enough. And that's the thing. I don't know. It feels like over there, um, there's a lot of kind of like it's like parallel in terms of how makes society kind of get on with their lives, and then these people kind of also would get on with their lives, and and authorities, I don't think I think they kind of close an eye, to them quite a lot. So
Hmm.
I was not making any trouble, like, they kind of left to their own devices a lot, in my view, anyways. Um, so
Yeah, it's a pretty common problem in every big city. But I thought the European cities would have a better grasp on it because they're supposed to be
well,
more progressive and
it's supposed to
give
have
you
like
more
that. It's supposed to
housing.
have like larger like social net and the social security system, but then again, a lot of times these guys are undocumented and you know I guess resources wise as well. Like if you don't have I guess unlimited number of resources to actually kind of account for every case, I guess the most logical thing for them would just kind of close an eye and like just hopefully just hope that they don't make any trouble, yeah, and they'll kind of just get on with it. Um, but then that's kind of the situation, I guess. Yeah.
Is there any other big issues in France besides the homeless?
Big issue. So, I mean, you probably heard of the news, right, with the whole yellow vest movement that broke out a couple of years
Yeah,
ago.
what are they protesting about?
So pretty much a bunch of social economic issues, but the the straw that broke the camel's back was when they increased the fuel prices, right? And then so that kind of just brought to the fore, all the kinds of issues to do with lower salaries, increasing living costs, sort of having more precarity in people's livelihoods, you know. Um,
Wait, so the yellow vests, for people that don't understand, including myself, are they protesting? Are they trying to spread the word of having wages be more livable, or like what's the
yeah,
deal?
that was part of the I guess platforms, uh, I guess claims or points, I guess, that they were protesting. And then of course with the government, I mean, this is still the current government, but at the time when they announced that they were going to, make the French economy, I guess, greener, so they were going to, incentivize his cleaner vehicles, but then also do away with, older vehicles, do away with, let's say traditional like, gas heating, and then therefore I think also increase the price in that sense, on these costs. So
So these
then,
protesters work in like gas usually, or like industries that are about to become more expensive or more obsolete.
and for the most part, I mean, because France is still quite, especially in the south, it's still quite, industrially, heavy kind of country in terms of, petroleum, right? So yeah, they definitely got affected there, and so then yeah, they were definitely protesting against these so-called more, I don't know, modernizing, sort of more progressive policies, right? That would definitely up the cost, right, in the short term at least. And then, but most of it though was just that, the fact that the taxes, I guess, were always having continued rising, I guess, over the years, but then wages not really. So paying more, but then getting less in terms of social services, So
Is there a big income disparity in France? Like similar to I doubt it'd be as bad as the
no,
United States, but
not as bad. But people generally speaking still earn less. Of course, like like for example, I don't know. I can say that the average wage would be around about, let's say, 2 to 3,000 euros a month.
mhm.
So I know, that, for example, the school teachers themselves earn about, let's say, about only about 2,000 euros a month. So yeah, and of course, that's not much. That's not
And there's a lot of
much
tax that
disparity.
goes into that too.
Yeah, definitely.
So like half of their paycheck, or maybe not half, but like a chunk of it goes to the
Yeah,
government.
big chunk, I guess. Yeah, it's 20-30%, I'll say. But yeah, it's also obviously they have like progressive brackets, I guess, as well. But yeah, that's the disparity, but still, I don't earn too much. I don't, I'm filthy rich. I guess the potential is less than that of the states, where you can really get super filthy rich, I guess, to a larger extent. States. But, um, but yeah, that whole movement already kind of set off, and you saw how it spread around the world, right? How you know uh, that really caught on. So, but that
Yeah,
was that
people are angry
was
about
one.
income disparity for
Yeah,
sure.
so in the recent history of France, yeah, that was probably the most destabilizing and uh, you know boisterous sort of revolt, sort of people's movement. But apart from that, let's say I think the other thing I would say is I would definitely also again to do with populism, right? And the extreme the far right movement is definitely also getting traction, like also like in other European countries as well. You know, using migration of course as a it's one of like their main talking points. So it's also definitely one of the you know
Yeah,
outside
and that
challenge.
that probably correlates too with un, income disparity too. If you don't make a lot of money and you feel like you want to blame someone for your problems,
Yeah, yeah,
you can blame
scapegoats.
immigrants. Yeah, it
Yeah,
happens everywhere, especially in the United States.
yeah. And so of course with the contemporary influx of migrants as well. Of course I think Italy definitely gets definitely bears a larger brunt, right? Italy, Greece, but still it's a European thing because they all end up in France, mainly in Germany. So yeah, but yeah, it's plenty of issues to deal with. But at the same time, man, it's still a good place to live. Honestly, I mean, to be honest, if you talk about like I guess the kind of security compared to most other countries around the world, security both the sense of being safe from any dangers, and also having sort of proper living, that will cover your needs and all that. I can see why people will still want to go live in France. Sure, the language is definitely a thing to have to to learn, or you have to get to terms with that. But otherwise, I can see why people want to live there. Yeah.
So so as a final note, what would you tell people, like, not to generalize about France?
Oh, they're not all arrogant, and they just appear maybe that way sometimes, but at the start. But no, they're incredibly humorous, and actually quite interesting people actually, for the most part, because of how opinionated they are, and how they also at the end of the day they also like a good laugh, Like, so at the same time, yeah, try with the French, make that effort at least, and yeah, and don't take it personally when they make fun of your French as well, huh? Because they do the same with theirs and their English as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it'll be fair. Like, I wish that a French person would come to America so I can make fun of his English. But until that day, the French can make fun of us when we visit Paris, which is much more likely. And on that note, it's time to end the show. This is going to be our second to last episode, so tune in next week for our final
Oh,
season finale of
oh,
Jono Lived Here. And thank you for listening. Thank you for coming on, Jonathan. And we'll see you next week.
yes, thank you very much.